good evening, or morning, or whatever time it is now. Not that it matters anymore. The clocks are still ticking, but the world outside, it's stopped. This is your radio voice in the dark. If you're hearing this, that means you still have power. Or at least, a battery. Something to keep you connected. Something to remind you that you're not the only one left. Because today was the day everything collapsed. The markets crashed. Not a dip. Not a correction. A full-scale implosion. Numbers went red faster than they could update the charts. Banks locked their doors. The digital wealth, the ones and zeros people worked their entire lives for, gone. Like it never even existed. We should have seen it coming. The warnings were there. The instability, the debt, the greed. But nobody believed it could happen. Not really. Because the system had always held up before. Because the experts said it was under control. Because we trusted numbers on a screen more than we trusted our own eyes. And now, the system is gone. And we are left with nothing. The radio crackles. A weak transmission, barely holding on. Another broadcaster. A voice from somewhere else in the country. Panicked, shaky. ATM networks are down. Wall Street is gone. The government isn't responding. No one knows who's in control anymore. I turn the volume down. Not because I don't need to hear it, but because I already know. I saw it happen with my own eyes. The banks shut their doors. The long lines at the gas stations. The fights breaking out in the supermarkets. People grabbing what they could before the register stopped working. Before money became meaningless. They always told us the economy was too big to fail. They told us the system was resilient, that we had safeguards, that the worst-case scenario wasn't possible. But today, we found out that was a lie. The power grid is still holding. For now. But I've heard reports that some cities are already dark. That the supply chains are frozen. That trucks are stopped. That food and fuel are going to run out. And when that happens, the real collapse begins. I take a deep breath. Grip the microphone tighter. Because I need to keep talking. I need to keep broadcasting. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear this. Needs to know that they're not alone. That they're not crazy for being afraid. Because this isn't just a crisis. This isn't just a market crash. This is something else. Something worse. And if we're going to survive it, we need to understand what's really happening. The system didn't fall apart all at once. Not really. It cracked. Slowly at first. Then all at once. I saw the first signs weeks ago. Maybe months ago. The banks tightening their rules. The stock market having technical pauses. The price of food going up so fast, people stopped checking the receipts. Because what was the point? It wasn't like we had a choice. It was always just a little more expensive. A little harder to breathe. But nobody thought, nobody believed that the whole thing could actually collapse. The news called it volatility. The economists called it a necessary adjustment. The politicians called it temporary hardship. And the people, we called it normal. Because what else could we do? We didn't want to believe the numbers were lies. We didn't want to believe that everything we built, our jobs, our savings, our homes, were built on nothing but promises. And today, those promises broke. The radio flickers. Another voice, barely pushing through the static. A man, out of breath, panicked. People are looting the pharmacies. I just saw a shooting at a gas station. I tried to withdraw money. There's nothing left. I turn it off. Not because I don't need to hear it, but because I already know. I can hear the sirens outside. I can hear the shouting, the first cracks of gunfire in the distance. People are waking up to the truth. They're realizing the rules don't exist anymore. And some of them are deciding to make their own rules. This is how it starts. The first few days, people still act like there's a way back. They wait for the government to step in. They think it's just another financial crisis. But then, the supplies run out. Then the power starts failing. And the only law left is the one people make for themselves. And that's when things really fall apart. I stare at the window. The lights in the distance are flickering. Power grid is straining. Maybe it holds for another night. Maybe not. Either way, I know what's coming. Because this isn't just an economic collapse. This isn't just a recession. This is the end of something bigger, and the beginning of something worse. The radio hisses again. A weak signal. A whisper in the static. Someone trying to say something. I turn the volume up, lean in, and then I hear it. A single word. Run. I don't know who sent that message. I don't know where it came from, but I don't need to, because I already know what it means. Run. The cracks in the system aren't cracks anymore. They're fault lines. And the whole thing, the whole damn structure, is about to break. Outside, the world still looks normal. But it's not. Not anymore. Because normal was a system. Normal was rules. Normal was banks and paychecks and food deliveries and governments that pretended to be in control. And now, normal is gone. The collapse wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a single event. It was a slow-motion train wreck that nobody wanted to admit was happening. And now, the dust is finally clearing. And people are realizing there's no one coming to save them. The radio crackles. More voices pushing through the static. Different places. Different people. But the same message. The police stopped responding. The stores are empty. My bank account shows 0. What do we do now? I turn the dial, searching for anything. Some kind of authority. Some kind of leadership. But there's nothing. No government announcements. No emergency response. Just scattered voices. Scared. Alone. Asking the same question. What happens now? I wish I had an answer. But I don't. Because this isn't like the other crashes. This isn't like before. There's no reset button this time. No bailouts. No recovery plan. The market is dead. And with it, the entire system that held this world together. They built a machine. A machine that only worked if everyone believed in it. A machine built on promises and debts and infinite growth. But nothing grows forever. And when the machine finally broke, it didn't just stop working. It took everything with it. I glance at the window. The power is still on, for now. But the lights in the distance are flickering. I know what that means. The grid is straining. The supply chains are frozen. The people who still think this is temporary. They're going to wake up soon. And when they do, things are going to get worse. The radio hisses again. Another signal breaking through. A man's voice. Breathing heavy. Shaky. And then, a whisper. Barely audible. Like he's speaking from the edge of something terrible. The banks were just the first to fall. It's not just the money. It's the food. It's the fuel. It's everything. They aren't telling us, but we only have a few weeks before the shelves are empty. Maybe less. I sit back. Let the words sink in. Because I already knew it was coming. But hearing it out loud, that makes it real. And I know. This isn't just a crash. This isn't just recession or inflation or market instability. This is the breaking point. And once it breaks, there's no going back. The banks are gone. The market is gone. But for now, people are still pretending. Pretending that order still exists. That the rules still matter. That things will go back to normal. But they won't. Because normal is dead. And soon. The people who haven't realized it yet, they will. Outside, the streets are quiet. Not because things are calm. Because people are watching. Waiting. Trying to decide what happens next. And that silence. That waiting. That's what scares me the most. Because it won't last. Because once people stop believing in the system, they start making their own rules. And that's when the real collapse begins. This is the part nobody talks about. Not the crash itself, not the numbers, not the stock tickers bleeding red on the news. It's the days right after. The days where people are still holding on, still following the rules, still believing that help is coming. Because when they finally realize, when the food stops arriving, when the power grid starts failing, when the last gallons of gas are sold, that's when it truly begins. The radio hums. More voices. More fragments of the world falling apart. A woman, voice shaking. The gas stations are empty. People are waiting in lines for hours, but there's nothing left. A man, whispering like he's hiding from something. I saw a group breaking into a grocery store. The manager tried to stop them. They killed him. Another voice, frantic in tears. My kids are hungry. My bank account says I have money, but they won't let me take it out. What am I supposed to do? I turn the volume down. Not because I don't need to hear it, but because I already know. The cracks are getting wider. The rules are breaking down. And soon, there won't be any rules left. This isn't just an economic collapse. This is the unraveling of everything we thought was permanent. The world wasn't built to survive without the system. And now that the system is gone, the world is crumbling with it. I stand up, look out the window. In the distance, I see a convenience store. The doors are wide open. A man walks out, arms full of supplies. He doesn't run. Nobody stops him. Nobody calls the police. Because everyone knows there's no law anymore. Just who gets there first. The radio crackles. A new voice. Steady. Calm. Too calm. Like someone who's already accepted what's coming. And he says, if you're still sitting at home, waiting for the government to fix this, you're already too late. The world isn't ending with a bang. No bombs. No sudden catastrophe. Just a slow, suffocating collapse. A fading heartbeat. Growing weaker every day. And the worst part, nobody trusts anything anymore. Not the banks. Not the government. Not their neighbors. Because when the system dies, trust dies with it. The radio flickers. A voice breaks through. A woman, breathless, terrified. I just got robbed. They said my money was worthless, that I had to pay in food. They took everything. Everything. I turn the volume down. Not because I don't need to hear it, but because I already knew. Good evening. Or morning. Or whatever time it is now. Not that it matters anymore. The clocks are still ticking, but the world outside, it's stopped. This is your radio voice in the dark. If you're hearing this, that means you still have power. Or at least, a battery. Something to keep you connected. Something to remind you that you're not the only one left. Because today was the day everything collapsed. The markets crashed. Not a dip. Not a correction. A full-scale implosion. Numbers went red faster than they could update the charts. Banks locked their doors. The digital wealth, the ones and zeros people worked their entire lives for, gone. like it never even existed. We should have seen it coming. The warnings were there, the instability, the debt, the greed. But nobody believed it could happen. Not really. Because the system had always held up before. Because the experts said it was under control. Because we trusted numbers on a screen more than we trusted our own eyes. And now, the system is gone. And we are left with nothing. The radio crackles. A weak transmission, barely holding on. Another broadcaster. A voice from somewhere else in the country. Panicked. Shaky. ATM networks are down. Wall Street is gone. The government isn't responding. No one knows who's in control anymore. I turn the volume down. Not because I don't need to hear it, but because I already know. I saw it happen with my own eyes. The banks shut their doors. The long lines at the gas stations. The fights breaking out in the supermarkets. People grabbing what they could before the register stopped working. Before money became meaningless. They always told us the economy was too big to fail. They told us the system was resilient, that we had safeguards, that the worst-case scenario wasn't possible. But today, we found out that was a lie. The power grid is still holding. For now. But I've heard reports that some cities are already dark. That the supply chains are frozen. That trucks are stopped. That food and fuel are going to run out. And when that happens, the real collapse begins. I take a deep breath. Grip the microphone tighter. Because I need to keep talking. I need to keep broadcasting. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear this. Needs to know that they're not alone. That they're not crazy for being afraid. Because this isn't just a crisis. This isn't just a market crash. This is something else. Something worse. And if we're going to survive it, we need to understand what's really happening. The system didn't fall apart all at once. Not really. It cracked. Slowly at first. Then all at once. I saw the first signs weeks ago. Maybe months ago. The banks tightening their rules. The stock market having technical pauses. The price of food going up so fast, people stopped checking the receipts. Because what was the point? It wasn't like we had a choice. It was always just a little more expensive. A little harder to breathe. But nobody thought, nobody believed that the whole thing could actually collapse. The news called it volatility. The economists called it a necessary adjustment. The politicians called it temporary hardship. And the people, we called it normal. Because what else could we do? We didn't want to believe the numbers were lies. We didn't want to believe that everything we built, our jobs, our savings, our homes, were built on nothing but promises. And today, those promises broke. The radio flickers. Another voice, barely pushing through the static. A man, out of breath, panicked. People are looting the pharmacies. I just saw a shooting at a gas station. I tried to withdraw money. There's nothing left. I turn it off. Not because I don't need to hear it, but because I already know. I can hear the sirens outside. I can hear the shouting. Money was never real. It was always about belief. As long as people believed a piece of paper had value, it did. As long as people trusted the system, it worked. But now nobody believes anymore. Nobody trusts. And without trust, nothing works. The markets are gone. But that's not what people are panicking about. It's the resources, the food, the fuel, the things you can't just print more of, the things that actually matter. And when people realize that money won't save them, they start doing whatever it takes to survive. The radio hums again. Another transmission, breaking through the static. A man, voice low, flat, cold. Someone broke into my house last night. Didn't take the TV, didn't take the jewelry. They took the canned food. They took the water. That's what matters now. I lean back, close my eyes for a second, because I already knew. This isn't about money anymore. This is about who has the supplies, and who's willing to take them. This is what happens when trust dies. People stop seeing each other as neighbors, as communities, as anything but competition. And once that happens, there's no going back. Outside, the street looks normal, but I know better. I see the way people move now, how they glance over their shoulders, how they hug their bags tighter, how every conversation feels like a negotiation. Not if things will get worse, but when. The radio crackles one more time. A final voice, whispering through the static. A voice that sounds like it's coming from someone who's already given up. I trusted my friend. I let him stay in my house. I woke up and he was gone. So was all my food. Silence. Just the low hum of a world unraveling. And I sit there, fingers on the microphone, wondering if I should say something. But I don't. Because I know the truth. Because I know that once trust is gone, there's nothing left to say. The system didn't just fail. It vanished. And now, the cities are starting to follow. I heard the rumors first. People calling in, saying it was getting bad in certain places. More violence. More disappearances. Shops getting emptied overnight. Police stations going silent. At first, I thought it was just fear talking. But then I got the broadcast. The radio crackles. A transmission pushes through. Weak, distorted. Like it's coming from the edge of something terrible. A man's voice. Ragged. Desperate. And he says, "It's over. The city is gone. No food. No power. No law. People are fighting in the streets. The government left days ago. We're on our own." I sit frozen. Because I know the city he's talking about. I've been there. I've walked those streets. And now it's just another casualty. One of many. One of the first. But not the last. This was always coming. The economy was just the first domino. The moment people realized money didn't mean anything anymore, they started taking what they needed. And when that happened, it wasn't a city anymore. It was a battleground. The radio flickers again. A new voice. Softer. Shaking. A woman. I tried to leave. The highways are blocked. Fires everywhere. I think people are setting up barricades. I think they're not letting anyone out. I lean back. Close my eyes. Because I know what that means. The city isn't just falling. It's closing in on itself. The people left inside. They aren't getting out. Not alive. Not unless they fight their way through. And maybe not even then. This is how it spreads. One city at a time. First, they lose the banks. Then they lose the stores. Then they lose order itself. And after that, it's just survival. I stare at the microphone, at the buttons, at the radio station that still has power. For now. And I wonder how many more broadcasts I'll get. How many more cities will go dark. Because if it's happening there, it's only a matter of time before it happens here. And when it does, will there be anyone left to listen? The cities are failing, one by one. But it's not just inside the cities anymore. Now it's spilling outward, flooding onto the highways, turning every road into a battleground of desperation. Because people aren't just sitting and waiting to die. They're running. And when millions of people run at once, there's nowhere left to go. The radio crackles. A weak signal fights through the static. Someone on the move. Out there. Somewhere. Caught in the exodus. A woman's voice. Out of breath. Terrified. I've been stuck here for 12 hours. No one's moving. People are abandoning their cars, taking what they can carry. I heard gunshots down the road. I don't think it's safe to stay here. I close my eyes, because I knew this would happen. I've seen the footage before. Hurricanes. Evacuations. Gridlock so thick that no one moves for days. But this is different. This isn't just an evacuation. This isn't just a storm. There's no end to this. There's no safe place to run to. Only the illusion of safety. Until people realize the truth. And then it turns violent. The highways were supposed to be an escape. A way out of the collapsing cities. But now, there's something else. They're traps. Thousands of cars, bumper to bumper, engines out of fuel. And the people inside, they're realizing they're sitting ducks. The radio hums. A new voice. A man. Angry. Scared. There's a group walking between the cars. Checking who has food. Who has water. They're not asking. They're taking. My stomach tightens. Because I knew this would happen. I knew. When the money died, the rules died with it. And now, only one thing matters. Who has resources, and who's willing to take them. People are realizing that laws only existed because they were enforced. And now, there's no one left to enforce them. No one left to stop the strongest from taking what they want. And that's exactly what's happening out there. The radio flickers again. A new voice. A child whispering. Barely audible. Scared. Hiding. Mommy won't wake up. I stare at the microphone. At the wires. At the lights in the studio that are still flickering. For now, I want to say something. Something that might help. But I know the truth. There's nothing left to say. The highways aren't an escape. They're graveyards. And the people out there, they don't know it yet. But they will. Very soon. It was never about the money. Not really. People just didn't realize it yet, until the money stopped working. Until the banks closed their doors. Until people saw the numbers on their screens disappear. Then, they understood. The real currency is survival. And right now, the most valuable thing in the world is fuel. The radio crackles. A broken transmission pushes through. Shouts in the background. Glass breaking. Then, a voice. Urgent. Rushed. Like someone reporting live from a battlefield. They shot a man at the gas station. Didn't even take his car. Just siphoned the tank and left him there. I gripped the microphone. Because I knew this would happen. I knew. It was only a matter of time. Fuel isn't just about cars anymore. It's about power. About light. About generators, heating, food, movement. It's the difference between freezing in the dark and staying alive. And now, people are killing for it. It started slow. A few stations shutting down, claiming supply chain issues. Then people panic bought everything they could. Then the trucks stopped coming. And when that happened, the real collapse began. I turned the dial. Search for another signal. Find another voice. This one closer. Shaky. People are making roadblocks. Not cops, not government. Just people. Armed. They stop cars. Check the tanks. If you've got fuel, you don't leave with it. I sit back. Because I expected this. Because I knew. The roads aren't safe. The cities aren't safe. And now, the people trying to escape. They're finding out the hard way. This is what happens when a system built on movement stops moving. When a world designed to function on just-in-time delivery has nothing left to deliver. The fuel is running out. The roads are filling up with abandoned cars. And the ones that still have gas, they're targets. The radio flickers again. Another voice. A woman whispering. Scared. Hiding. They're siphoning fuel from parked cars. We saw them coming and turned off our lights. They don't know we're in here. Not yet. I stare at the window. At the dark street outside. At the parked cars that still sit in the distance. Full tanks. Full targets. And I wonder, how long before someone checks my street? How long before someone finds this station? Because if I know one thing, it's this. They're not going to stop. Not until the last drop of fuel is gone. And when that happens, the real nightmare begins. Because without fuel, there's only one option left. And that's when people start hunting each other. The fuel is gone. The markets are gone. And now, the lights are going out. One city at a time. I saw it happen last night. First, the streetlights flickered. Then the houses went dark. Then, the entire neighborhood disappeared into blackness. And this morning, the power still hasn't come back. And I don't think it ever will. The radio crackles. A transmission fights through. A man's voice, barely audible, shivering. The grid is failing. The substations are down. There's no one left to fix them. I gripped the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. Because I knew. When the economy dies, the infrastructure dies with it. And once the grid goes down, everything falls apart. The banks were just the beginning. The gas shortage was just the next step. But this is different. This isn't about money anymore. This is about survival. Because if the power doesn't come back, winter will kill more people than the riots ever could. The radio flickers again. A new voice. A woman, crying, barely able to speak. It's so cold. My baby is sick. We ran out of firewood. Please, someone help. I look at the heater in the corner. Still working. For now. But I know what's coming. The last drops of fuel will burn away. The last generators will go silent. And then, the cold will take everything. They always said the power grid was strong. That it could withstand disasters, wars, anything. But what they never told us is that without maintenance, without people keeping it running, it dies fast. And when it dies in the middle of winter, people die with it. The radio crackles again. A whisper. A child's voice. Software. Fragile. Mommy won't wake up. I close my eyes. Grip the microphone tighter. Because I don't know what to say. Because there's nothing I can say. Because this is only the beginning. The first winter without power. The first of many. And when the snow keeps falling, and the food runs out, and the people start freezing in their homes, that's when the world will realize. That's when they'll understand. This isn't just a crash. This isn't just an economic collapse. This is the start of something worse. And we are not ready for it. The cold is killing people. But it's not the worst of it. Not yet. Because now, people are realizing something worse. They can handle the darkness. They can handle the cold. But they can't handle hunger. And the food is running out. Fast. The radio crackles. A transmission pushes through. Weak. Distant. Like someone barely hanging on. A woman's voice. I went to the store today. There's nothing left. No canned food. No bread. No milk. The shelves are just empty. People are fighting in the parking lot over scraps. I knew this was coming. I warned people. The moment the supply chains broke, the moment the trucks stopped running, the stores would die next. And now, they're just hollow buildings. Skeletons of what they used to be. Nothing left but shattered glass and looted shelves. They told us there would always be food. That no matter what happened, the stores would restock. That the system was too big to fail. But now we know the truth. The system never had backup plans. The moment the shipment stopped, it was already too late. And now, people are starving. The radio hums. Another voice. A man. Angry. Desperate. We tried to trade. Tried to offer cash, gold, anything. But they don't want money anymore. They want food. And if you don't have any, they don't care what you offer. I stare at the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. Food isn't a commodity anymore. It's currency. And if you don't have it, you're nobody. You're prey. And the people who have it, they're hiding. Or worse, they're fighting to keep it. This is how it starts. First, the markets crash. Then the fuel disappears. Then the power grid fails. And then, the hunger sets in. And that's when people become animals. That's when they stop pretending to be civilized. The radio crackles again. A whisper. Weak. Shaky. Like someone hiding. They broke into our house last night. Took everything from the pantry. Left us with nothing. My kids, they haven't eaten in 2 days. I feel sick. Because I knew. The moment food became scarce. The moment people realized there wasn't enough. They would do anything to survive. Anything. This isn't just about theft anymore. This isn't about money or power. This is about who eats and who starves. And if you don't have food, you're a target. I glance at the window, at the street outside, at the empty storefronts, at the shadows moving between them. Because it's happening here too. The looting, the home invasions, the violence. And I know it's only going to get worse. Because winter is just beginning. Because people are just now realizing the truth. That this isn't a temporary crisis. That help isn't coming. That the world they knew is gone. And if they don't take what they need, they're going to starve. The stores are empty. The banks are dead. The government is silent. But somehow, people are still buying and selling. Because no matter how bad things get, trade never stops. It just changes. It just gets darker. And now, the black markets are rising. The radio crackles. A voice pushes through. A man. Low. Cautious. Like he knows someone is listening. Like he doesn't want to be heard. The old markets are gone. But there's a new one in the warehouse district. Cash means nothing. If you want food, you better bring something to trade. I sit back. Because I expected this. Because I knew. The moment money stopped working, people would find another way. And now, the economy isn't dead. It's just been reborn. Into something more ruthless. Something colder. Something with one rule. Only the strong eat. This isn't a new idea. The old world ran on numbers. Bank accounts, credit, digital transactions. But now, the economy has gone back to something older. Something more brutal. Barter. If you have food, you have power. If you have fuel, you have value. And if you have nothing, then you are nothing. The radio hisses again. Another voice. Younger. Desperate. They won't let me in. I tried to trade my wedding ring for food. They just laughed. They only want fuel, medicine, ammo. I knew this was coming. I knew. Because gold means nothing now. Jewelry, diamonds, luxury items. They don't feed you. They don't keep you warm. And now, people understand. The real wealth is in the things that keep you alive. The rules have changed. The economy isn't based on luxury anymore. It's based on survival. And the people who control the resources, they're the new kings. The radio hums again, a whisper in the static. Low, dangerous, not scared, not desperate, calm. Like someone who has power, like someone who knows they're in control. We've got supplies, but nothing's free. You want food? You work for it. You want shelter? You owe us. And if you don't pay, then you're just another mouth to feed. And we don't keep dead weight. I shudder. Because I knew. The black markets aren't just trade. They're power. They're control. And the people who run them, they decide who lives and who starves. I glance at the window, at the street outside, at the shadows moving between the buildings. Because I know the black markets are growing. The desperate are gathering. And the moment you owe someone something, that's when you stop being free. That's when you become property. And the worst part is people will agree to it. Because when you're hungry enough, you'll trade anything to survive. Even yourself. The money is worthless. And now, the only thing that matters, the only thing people will kill for, is safety. Because the streets aren't safe anymore. Not at night. Not during the day. Not anywhere. And people are willing to pay anything to escape the chaos. The radio crackles. A new transmission pushes through. A voice. Rough. Cold. Like someone who's already seen too much. The cities are done. Doesn't matter which one. If you're still in a major metro, you're already dead. The only way out is with protection. And that costs more than money. I sit back. Because I knew this would happen. I knew. When the government stopped responding. When the police stopped answering calls. When the streets became hunting grounds. The people with guns. The people with walls. The people who could promise protection. They took over. And now, safety isn't a right anymore. It's a luxury. Something you buy. Something you owe. And if you can't pay, then you don't deserve to live. This is what happens when civilization crumbles. The strong take what they want. The weak become their currency. And the people who can still offer protection, they decide who makes it through the night. The radio flickers again. A woman. Shaky. Breathless. I thought we found safety. They let us in. They gave us food. But then they told us the price. And it wasn't money. I exhale slowly. Because I knew this was coming. The price of safety was never going to be cheap. And for some people, it's going to cost everything. The strong always find a way to make the weak useful. First, they take your food. Then, they take your freedom. Then, they take your dignity. And if you can't offer any of that, then you're just a liability. And liabilities don't last long. The radio hums again. A whisper. A man's voice. Tired. Low. Not a warning. Not a call for help. Just a fact. If you want to live, you better have something to offer. If you don't, you're just waiting to die. I close my eyes. Because I know he's right. Because I know that out there, right now, people are making choices they never thought they'd have to make. People are selling themselves for safety, for food, for a chance to survive one more day. Because that's what the world is now. It's not about who has the most money. It's about who has the most power. And power isn't free. Not anymore. Governments don't collapse overnight. They rot, piece by piece, law by law, until there's nothing left but power. And the people who take it. The people who decide the new rules. Because when the leaders fled, When the police stopped responding. When the military fell apart, someone stepped in. And now, we have warlords. The radio crackles. A weak transmission. A voice, low and cautious, like someone afraid of being overheard. They took the courthouse, said it's theirs now, that the city belongs to them. They've got men, guns, roadblocks. Nobody gets in or out without their say. I expected this. I knew. It was only a matter of time, because power never disappears. It just moves. And now, it belongs to the ones willing to take it by force. This isn't the first time this has happened. It's happened before. In history. In war. In every failed state before this one. The moment the government collapses, the strongest rise. And they don't ask for permission. They take. They rule. They survive. And now, they've taken our cities. The radio flickers again. A new voice. Tired. Worn down. Like someone who's seen too much. There's no law anymore. Just men with weapons. If you don't work for them, then you're their enemy. I lean back. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. The moment people realized nobody was coming to save them, they saved themselves. And the ones with the most guns, they became the new kings. This is how empires start. Not with elections. Not with diplomacy. With war. With control. With people desperate enough to follow anyone who promises them food, water, and protection. The radio hums again. Another whisper. A woman. Scared. They took my son. Said he had to fight for them. Said it wasn't a choice. My stomach turns. Because I knew. I knew. The warlords aren't just taking land, they're taking people. And the ones who don't fight, they become something else. This isn't just survival anymore. This is war. And war always has winners. And losers. And the ones caught in between. They don't get a choice. I glance at the window. The city in the distance. The shadows moving in the streets. Because it's already happening here. The warlords are rising. The new leaders. The ones who decide who eats, who lives, who dies. And the worst part is people will follow them. Because when you're hungry enough, when you're scared enough, you'll do anything to feel safe. Even if it means serving a monster. Even if it means becoming one. The warlords took control. But not everyone bowed to them. Not everyone surrendered. And now, the cities are at war. Not against an army, not against an invasion, but against themselves. The radio crackles. A weak, frantic voice pushes through. Gunfire in the background. Screams. And then, a man. Breathless. They're fighting in the streets. One gang against another. We can't leave our building. There are bodies in the roads. I gripped the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. The moment power shifted. The moment one group claimed control. There would be another. And another. Because nobody stays on top forever. Because everyone wants to rule. And the cities? They're just battlegrounds now. This isn't a civilization anymore. It's a feudal war zone. Each block ruled by a different faction. Each street a no man's land. And the people left inside, they're not citizens anymore. They're hostages. They're collateral. The radio flickers again. A woman. Crying. Desperate. They set fire to the food warehouse. Said if they can't have it, no one can. What are we supposed to do now? I shudder. Because I knew. This was always coming. This isn't about survival anymore. This is about control. And if they can't rule the city, they'll burn it down instead. This isn't just a collapse. This is what happens when desperation meets greed, when power struggles turn into open war, and when the people left behind are too weak to fight back. I glance at the window, at the distant glow of fires in the city, at the streets below, quieter than they should be. Because people aren't going outside anymore. Because the streets aren't safe. Not from riots, not from looters, not from the men with guns. And soon, they'll be coming here too. Because the fighting won't stay contained. Because war doesn't stop at borders. And when the dust settles, whoever's left, they won't recognize this place anymore. Because this isn't a city now. This is a war zone. And war only ends one way. With the strong standing over the ashes, and the weak buried beneath them. The law is dead. The police were the first to fall. Some ran. Some tried to hold the line. Most just vanished. Because when the money stopped, so did the system. And when there's no paychecks, no backup, no rules, the badge means nothing. But not all of them left. Some of them stayed. Some of them refused to let the world die. And now, they're trying to take it back. The radio crackles. A voice pushes through. Firm, strong. A man. One of the last. A cop who hasn't given up yet. We're still here. We're still trying. We haven't abandoned this city, but we can't do it alone. If you're listening, if you can fight, we need you. I sit back, because I knew this was coming. I knew. There are always some who won't let go. Some who still believe. Even when everything is burning. Even when everything is lost. And now, they think they can bring it back. They think they can fix it. But I know the truth. It's too late. The police force wasn't just about guns and badges. It was about authority. About control. And control only works if people believe in it. And now, nobody believes anymore. Not in laws. Not in justice. Not in anything but survival. The radio flickers again. A new voice. Younger. Shaky. Scared. I was a cop. I tried to keep the peace. Tried to stop the looting. Then they turned on us. Said we were part of the old world. Said we didn't deserve to survive. I exhale. Because I knew this was coming. I knew the moment the police stopped being in charge. They became targets. The people who used to fear them. Now they hunt them. Now they see them as relics, as ghosts of a dead world. And ghosts don't survive in this new reality. This is what happens when the system collapses. It doesn't matter who you were. A cop, a judge, a politician. The moment the people realize you have no real power, you're just another person trying to survive. And in a world without law, survival is the only rule left. The radio hums again. Another whisper. Someone else. Low. Cold. A different kind of voice. One with no hope left. The law isn't coming back. The government isn't coming back. There's no order anymore. Only who has the most bullets. I glance at the window. At the distant ruins of the city. Because I know the truth. The last police force can fight. They can try. They can die for what they believe in. But they can't win. Because the world they're trying to save doesn't exist anymore. The lights are going out. One block at a time. One city at a time. The power grid is failing. And this time, it's not coming back. The radio crackles. A voice. Tired. Worn down. Like someone who hasn't slept in days. The substations are failing. No crews to fix them. No one left to keep the grid running. The power plants are shutting down. And when the last one goes, that's it. I stare at the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. The economy was just the first domino. The food was the second. The The violence was the third. And now, the lights. The last thing keeping us connected. The last thing making us feel like the world still exists. It's all fading. The modern world wasn't built for this. Everything, our homes, our water, our heat, it all depends on electricity. And now, we're running out of it. And when the last power station shuts down, we go back to the dark ages. And people aren't ready for that. The radio flickers again. A woman's voice, panicked, fast, like she's watching it happen in real time. The lights just died in our neighborhood. People are running into the streets. They don't know what to do. They're lighting fires just to see. I swallow hard, because I know what happens next. Because I know what darkness does to people. At first, it's just fear, just uncertainty. But when the shock wears off, that's when the real horror begins. People always say they aren't afraid of the dark, but that's a lie. Because the dark hides things. Because the dark makes people disappear. Because in the dark, nobody can see you coming. The radio hisses again. A whisper. Weak. A man's voice. Shaky. They cut the power on purpose. Not an accident. Not a failure. They're making sure we can't fight back. So I sit frozen. Because I know. The blackouts aren't just happening. They're being used. By the gangs. By the warlords. By the people who want total control. And when the power is gone, people have nothing left to resist with. No communication. No warnings. Just shadows. Just silence. Just a world where the only thing that matters is who has the most firepower. I glance at the window. The city in the distance. The last few lights flickering out. It's happening here too. And when my generator runs out, when the last bit of electricity dies in this station, the only thing left will be my voice. And even that won't last forever. The lights are gone. The streets are silent. The city is dead. And now the night belongs to them. The radio crackles. A voice breaks through. Weak, terrified. A woman whispering. They're out there, moving between the buildings. They only come out at night. I think they like the darkness. I lean closer, turn the volume up, because I knew this was coming. I knew. The moment the power went out, the moment the last streetlights flickered and died, it wasn't just the cold and hunger people had to fear anymore. It was whoever was left in the dark. And now, they own the night. The night used to be safe. Because we had lights. Because we had police. Because we had something bigger than fear keeping the monsters away. But now there's nothing left to stop them. Now the monsters aren't hiding anymore. Now they're hunting. The radio hisses. Another transmission. A man's voice. Rushed. Scared. Like he's running while he speaks. They hit a shelter last night. Took everything. Didn't leave anyone alive. They don't just steal anymore. They erase. I grip the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. The gangs aren't just looting. They're not just fighting over territory. They're taking full control. And if you're not useful to them, if you're not part of their world, they erase you. This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about domination. This is about removing the weak. And the ones who refuse to play by the new rules, they don't last long. The radio flickers again. A whisper. A child. Hiding. Scared. They took my parents. I don't know where they went. They left me here. I'm alone. I close my eyes. Because I knew. The strong are taking everything. The weak are vanishing. And the night belongs to them now. to the ones without mercy, to the ones who thrive in the dark. And if you're not like them, if you can't become like them, then you don't survive the night. You just disappear into it. The night is theirs now. The streets are hunting grounds. The people who ran out of food, out of fuel, out of time, they're gone. But not all of them. Because somewhere out there, in the blackout, in the ruins of the old world, there are still voices, weak, scattered, calling out through the static, trying to reach someone, trying to prove they still exist. The radio crackles, a new signal, distant, barely holding on, a man's voice, steady, calm, like someone who's seen the worst and kept going. If you can hear this, you're not alone. If you can hear this, there's still hope. We have food. We have shelter. We're holding out. Find us. I sit forward. Turn the dial slowly, trying to lock onto the frequency. Because this is different. This isn't another distress call. This isn't another desperate plea for help. This is someone offering something. Something nobody else is offering anymore. A chance. A safe place. A future. Not everyone became a monster. Not everyone gave up. Some people still believe in something better. Some people still fight for it. And now, they're calling out. Trying to bring the lost back together. Trying to rebuild something from the ashes. The radio flickers again. A different voice. A woman. Suspicious. Cold. This is a trick. Don't go. It's not what they say it is. I pause. Because I knew this was coming. Because I knew. Hope is a weapon now. And the people who offer it, they might not be what they claim. The strong don't need to steal anymore. They just need to offer salvation. And the desperate come to them willingly. Looking for safety. Looking for food. Looking for something that doesn't exist anymore. And when they arrive, they don't leave. The radio hums. Another whisper. Software. Scared. A young girl. I went to find them. They didn't let me leave. I don't know where I am. Please. Someone help. I exhale slowly. Because I don't know who to believe. Because I don't know if hope is real anymore. But I do know this. The people listening to me right now, the ones still holding on, they're going to have to make a choice. Stay hidden. Stay alone. Or take the risk. Follow the signal. Chase one last chance at survival. And maybe walk straight into a trap. Because in the darkness, in the ruins of the world that was, the last thing that still has value is hope. And hope always has a price. There aren't many places left. Not that you'd want to go to. Not that you'd want to trust. But some still exist. Scattered across the ruins of the old world. They call them sanctuaries, refuges, safe zones. But nothing is free anymore. And if you want safety, you have to pay for it. The radio crackles. A man's voice pushes through. Clear. Strong. Almost too strong. Like someone who isn't begging for survivors. Like someone who's choosing them. This is Sanctuary 17. We have walls. We have food. We have order. If you want in, you follow our rules. If you break them, you leave. And if you try to take without giving, you won't leave at all. I stare at the microphone. Because I knew. Nothing survives this long without control, without ruthlessness, without rules that don't bend. And these places, they aren't sanctuaries. They're kingdoms. And the people who run them, they're not leaders. They're dictators. Not everyone is looking for a home. Some are looking for an army. Some are looking for workers, for soldiers, for people willing to trade their freedom for a full belly. Because out here, That's the price of survival. The radio flickers again. A woman's voice. Software. Measured. Controlled. Not fearful. Not weak. Like someone who has accepted the new world. I found a place. They don't ask questions. They don't care who you were before. But once you're inside, you don't leave. Not unless they say so. I exhale. Because I knew. There are no more free cities. No more open gates. If you find a place to stay, you belong to it. You follow its laws. You serve its leader. And if you don't, then you're out in the cold. Or worse. The old world had nations. The new world has fiefdoms. And the people who hold power now, they aren't asking for loyalty. They're demanding it. Because in a lawless world, obedience is the only thing keeping people from turning on each other. The radio crackles again. A whisper. Faint. Like someone hiding. It's not safe here. They say it is, but it's not. They take more than they give. Be careful who you trust. I sit back, close my eyes, because I knew. There are no real safe places anymore. There are only choices. Trade your freedom for safety. Trade your morality for food. Trade your trust for survival. Because if you want to live in this world, you have to belong to something. And if you don't, if you refuse, then you belong to nothing. And in a world like this, nothing doesn't last long. Not everyone surrendered. Not everyone knelt. Some people looked at the new world, at the warlords, at the strongholds, at the black markets, at the price of safety, and they said no. Now they're hunted. Now they're hiding. And now, they're the last free people left. The radio crackles. A voice pushes through. Not broken. Not desperate. Determined. Strong. A man. One of the ones who refused. We don't serve them. We don't live behind their walls. We don't follow their rules. We are free. And we will never kneel. I sit forward. Turn the volume up. Because this is different. This isn't just another survivor. This isn't someone begging for help. This is someone fighting back. Someone who still believes in something. Something bigger than just survival. Something bigger than just fear. Not everyone belongs to a faction. Not everyone trades their soul for food, for warmth, for shelter. Some still believe in freedom. Even if it kills them. The radio flickers again. A new voice. A woman. Breathless. Urgent. Like someone on the run. They found us. The warlords. They don't allow anyone outside their control. We barely escaped. I don't know how long we can keep running. I gripped the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. The warlords don't tolerate defiance. Not anymore. If you're not one of them, you're a threat. And threats don't get to live. This isn't about order. It's about ownership. About making sure there's no one left who can fight back. About making sure there's no alternatives. Because if people see another way, if they see that freedom is still possible, they might start wanting it too. The radio crackles again. A whisper. A warning. A man, barely holding on. If they find you, they don't just kill you. They make an example of you. To show everyone else what happens when you resist. I shudder. Because I knew. The warlords aren't just rulers. They're tyrants. And in their world, freedom isn't just a threat. It's a disease. Something they have to wipe out. Before it spreads. I glance at the window. At the empty streets. At the city, still burning in the distance. Because I know what's coming. The ones who refused, they're losing. One by one. Day by day. And if they fall completely, then the last hope for a world without chains dies with them. They tried to run. They tried to hide. They tried to survive without bending the knee. But the warlords wouldn't let them. Now, there's only one choice left. No more running. No more hiding. Now they fight. And this is how the war begins. The radio crackles. Gunfire in the background. Shouting. Chaos. A man's voice. Breathless. Rushed. Like someone broadcasting in the middle of a battlefield. The resistance is fighting back. They hit a supply convoy last night. Took out one of the warlord strongholds. It's happening. The first real fight. I gripped the microphone. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. You can only push people so far. You can only take so much from them before they push back. And now the warlords aren't invincible anymore. Now someone is fighting them. And if they can bleed, that means they can fall. This is how it always happens. It starts with whispers. Then, small acts of defiance. Then the first shot's fired. And once blood is spilled, there's no turning back. The radio flickers again. A woman's voice. Calm. Focused. Like someone who knows exactly what's coming. This isn't just a rebellion. This is war. And wars don't end quickly. They don't end clean. Everyone will have to pick a side. I exhale. Because I know she's right. Because I know. There's no middle ground anymore. No sitting on the sidelines. If you want to survive, you fight. Or you submit. And people are choosing. Some will fight for freedom. Some will fight for power. Some will fight just to see the world burn. And some will do whatever it takes to make sure they don't lose. The radio crackles again. Another voice. A soldier. Or what used to be one. Now just a man trying to hold the line. They've got more weapons. More people. But we've got something they don't. We've got nothing left to lose. I lean back. Because I knew this was coming. I knew. The warlords have everything to protect. The people fighting them? They have nothing. And that makes them dangerous. Because a man with nothing left to lose, he'll burn the whole world down, just to watch it crumble. The war has begun. The first shots have been fired. And now, the first city is falling. The radio crackles. A voice pushes through. Not panicked, not desperate, just resigned, like someone watching the inevitable. It's over. The fighting's still going, but it doesn't matter. The city's done. The streets are burning. The warlords are pulling back, but they're not running. They're waiting. Letting us destroy ourselves before they come back to pick up the pieces. I sit back. Because I knew this was coming. The warlords never needed to win. They just needed to survive. Let the rebels tear themselves apart. Let the civilians starve, freeze, break. Then walk back in when it's over. And take everything. This isn't a revolution. This isn't about freedom. This is survival. And survival isn't one with hope. It's one with power. And right now, nobody has enough. The radio flickers again. Another voice. Weaker. Like someone hiding. Like someone who doesn't think they'll make it through the night. The barricades are down. The rebels are fighting each other now. People who were on the same side yesterday. Now they're killing each other over food, over weapons, over nothing. I close my eyes. Because I knew. Revolutions aren't clean. They don't bring peace. They rip everything apart. And the moment the war starts, the people fighting for freedom turn into people fighting for control. This was always going to happen. The warlords didn't just take over because they were strong. They took over because people needed order. And now, without them, It's chaos. The warlords won't have to fight to take this city back. They'll just have to wait. Wait for the smoke to clear. Wait for the rebels to kill each other. And then walk in and take whatever's left. The radio crackles again. A whisper. A child's voice. The sky is orange. Everything is burning. Is this the end? I don't answer. Because I don't know. Because I don't lie to my listeners. Because maybe this is the end. Maybe this was always the end. And now, we're just watching it unfold. City by city. Street by street. Until there's nothing left to burn, and no one left to fight. The fires are dying. The fighting has slowed. Not because there's peace. Because there's nothing left to fight for. The first city has fallen. And now, all that's left is ashes. The radio crackles. A transmission cuts through the static. Software. Weak. A woman. Exhausted. The smoke hasn't cleared yet. It's in the air. In our clothes. In our lungs. We lost everything. We didn't win. Nobody won. I leaned forward. Because I knew this was coming. Nobody wins these kinds of wars. Nobody comes out stronger. Nobody rebuilds from nothing. They just cling to whatever's left. And pray they last another day. This isn't the end of the war. This is just the aftermath. The part where people crawl out of the wreckage and realize they lost more than they thought. The part where the survivors look at each other and wonder who's still human. The part where the world gets even quieter. The radio flickers again. Another voice. A man. Slow. Measured. Like someone who's accepted what comes next. The bodies are still in the streets. No one's burying them. No one can. Too dangerous to go outside. The air is poison. The snow is falling black. I shudder. Because I knew. The warlords didn't just destroy a city. They made it unlivable. No food. No water. No law. And now, no clean air. This is what collapse really looks like. Not just fire and gunshots. Not just screams and riots. It's the slow decay after. The sickness. The starvation. The long cold wait for death. The radio crackles again. A whisper. A child. Still alive. For now. We need help. We haven't eaten in 3 days. Mom says we should leave. But where do we go? I close my eyes. Because I don't have an answer. Because I don't know if there is an answer. The city is dead. A wasteland. A tomb. And if they stay, they'll die. But if they leave, where do they go? To the next city? To the next war? To the next battlefield waiting to be burned? Because that's what this is now. A domino effect. One city falls. Then another. And another. Until there's nothing left standing. Until there's no one left to flee. And when that happens, that's when we'll realize this wasn't a war. This wasn't a rebellion. This was the end. The city is gone. The war isn't over. But the people, they're leaving. Because they have to. Because if they stay, they die. The radio crackles. The transmission is shaky. Distant. Like someone moving. A woman's voice. Tired. Worn. The roads are packed. Everyone's trying to get out. But there's nowhere to go. The next town is just as bad. No food. No shelter. No safe place left. I close my eyes. Because I knew this was coming. There are no safe cities. No untouched places. No promised land at the end of the road. Only more ruins. More desperation. More bodies lining the highways. This is what the end really looks like. Not a single explosion. Not a single day where it all falls apart. It's the slow unraveling. The long walk to nowhere. The realization that home doesn't exist anymore. And the only thing left is the road. The radio flickers again. Another voice. A man. Cautious. People are getting desperate. stopping cars now. Not asking anymore. Just taking. I exhale. Because I knew. I knew this was next. The people who lost everything. The people who have nothing left to lose. They're not just running anymore. They're turning on each other. Because when there's not enough to go around, people don't share. They fight. They steal. They kill. The highways were supposed to be an escape, but they've become something else. A battlefield. A hunting ground. And every car, every traveler, is just another target. The radio crackles again. A whisper. A child. We ran out of gas. Mom won't wake up. I don't know where to go. I grip the microphone because I don't know what to say, because I can't help them, because this isn't just one child. This isn't just one family. This is thousands, millions, a whole nation of refugees, a whole world on the move, and there's nowhere left to run. I look out the window, at the empty road, at the dark horizon, because I know what comes next, because I know where this is going. The cities are dead. The roads are war zones. And the people still standing, they're the strongest, the most ruthless. And when the weakest fall away, when there's no one left but them, that's when the real battle for survival begins. The cities are gone. The roads are killing fields. The people who still breathe, they're moving, because there's nothing else to do. Because the only choice left is to run, or to die. The radio crackles. A transmission fights through. Weak. Tired. A man's voice. Low. Steady. Like someone who doesn't have much left to say, but still says it anyway. It's not just this country. It's not just this war. It's happening everywhere. Every continent. Every border. It's all breaking down. And the only thing left is movement. I sit back, because I knew this wasn't just us. This wasn't just one collapse, one warlord, one city, one burning ruin in the dark. This was global. This was the end of something bigger. And now, the whole world is running. This is the final migration. The last time people will ever move in numbers like this. Because it's not just war. It's not just hunger. It's the death of structure itself. And when there's no more nations, no more borders, no more governments, people don't stay still. They walk. They wander. Until there's nowhere left to go. The radio flickers again. A woman's voice. Breathless. Fast. Like she's moving while she talks. Like she knows stopping means dying. The camps are full. There's too many of us. They won't let anyone else in. They say there's no more food. No more medicine. No more space. I exhale slowly. Because I knew. The camps aren't safe. They never were. They were just a pause button. Just another way to delay the inevitable. Because when the world dies, there's no rescue mission. No aid on the way. Just people. Too many. All fighting for the same scraps. And when the food runs out, when the gates stay closed, the people outside aren't refugees anymore. They're invaders. And invaders don't get welcomed in. This is what happens when the last safe places fill up. When the last cities fall. When the last illusions of order crumble. The desperate don't just knock on the door. They break it down. They tear it apart. Because survival isn't polite. And when the world runs out of room, the people who didn't get in first don't get in at all. The radio hisses again. A whisper. A child. Mom says we can't stop walking. She says there's a safe place if we keep going. But I don't think there is. I don't think anywhere is safe anymore. I stare at the microphone. Because I don't know what to say. Because I can't lie to them. because I don't know if there is anywhere left. A last city, a last stronghold, a last piece of land untouched by the collapse. If it exists, I don't know where it is. And even if I did, I don't think anyone would make it there. Because this isn't just movement. This isn't just migration. This is the slow death of the world. The long walk into extinction. And there's no coming back from that. The migration continues. But now, it's not just about hunger. Not just about finding shelter. Because something worse is happening. The people on the road, they're not just refugees anymore. They're being hunted. The radio crackles. A weak signal. A man's voice. Breathless. Rushed. Like someone running while he speaks. They're picking us off. Not just bandits. Not just warlords. Something else. They don't take food. They don't take supplies. They just take people. I sit forward because I knew this was coming. The world is lawless now, and when the laws die, the worst kind of people come out of hiding, and now they're not hiding anymore. The road was never safe, not even when the world was whole. But now, the ones who used to hide in shadows, now they rule them. Now they wait, and the people too weak to keep moving, they disappear. The radio flickers again. A woman's voice. Software. Broken. My sister's gone. We were walking together. I turned around, and she was just gone. I closed my eyes, because I knew. This isn't just war. This isn't just hunger. This is something worse. The world isn't dying. It's feeding on itself. And the people who don't move fast enough, the people who can't keep up, they're vanishing into the dark. And nobody is looking for them. The strongholds are full. The camps are overrun. But there's a whisper, a rumor, a place still standing. A place where the world hasn't collapsed yet. A place where the war never touched. The last outpost. The radio crackles. A voice. Not panicked, not weak, strong, controlled, like someone in command. If you're listening, you still have a chance. There's a place left. We have food. We have security. We don't take everyone. But if you can make it here, you'll live. I leaned closer. Because I knew this would come. I knew. There's always one last place. One last fortress. But the question isn't if it's real. The question is if they'll let you in. The world is a closed door now. And the people inside, they're not looking to share. They're looking to survive. And if you want in, you better be worth keeping. The radio flickers again. A man's voice. Lower. Darker. Not welcoming. Warning. If you come, bring something to offer. Skills. Weapons. Strength. Because if you don't, you won't be staying long. I stare at the microphone. Because I knew. The last safe place? It isn't a refuge. It's a fortress. And only the useful survive. The rest? They never get through the gate. The signal is weak. The power is gone. And now, the world is silent. The radio crackles. But there's no voice. No message. No desperate call for help. Just static. Just the sound of nothing. Because there's no one left to speak. And soon, there'll be no one left to listen. I sit in darkness. The last humming wires of the station dying around me. The last glow of my equipment fading. The last traces of a world that used to be. Gone. This is what the end feels like. Not fire. Not explosions. Just the long, slow fade into nothing. The sound of a world forgetting itself. The sound of history. Vanishing. I reach for the microphone. One last time. My hands cold. Shaking. I don't know if anyone is left. I don't know if anyone is still listening. But if they are, if somewhere, someone still hears this, I want them to remember. The radio crackles, my voice, thin, fading, but still here. If you can hear me, if you're still out there, you're not alone. Not yet. Stay warm. Stay moving. And if you ever hear another voice, know that the world isn't gone. Not completely. The static grows louder. The power flickers. The signal drops. And then, nothing. No voice. No sound. Just an empty frequency. A station with no host. A radio with no one left to speak. And beyond the static, beyond the last whisper of sound, only the end.